Let's talk about One House Digital. We got Jan Smith here, who is the owner and marketing director of One House Digital, and we basically gonna be, learning about her perspective on the digital marketing space and the types of clients she's working with and how she's helping her clients to, win online and win the leads and the business from the website. So, Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lucas. It's great to be here.
Cool. So tell us about One House Digital. What is it all about?
Yes, we are a full digital marketing agency. We have an ad campaigns department, social media management department, websites and landing pages development and design, and also graphic design. We also recently have opened an online sales coaching division. So that, in a nutshell, is One House Digital.
That's very interesting, actually. We had because that where you bring that element back there, right? Because we had a lot of marketing agencies that we were speaking with, but that piece of how do you actually close the deal that you just generated, I think is a very interesting gap that you're filling there. Maybe tell me about the companies that you're working with. What type of businesses would that be? What type of verticals? So maybe that the listeners can get an understanding, what your daily works look like.
Yes. So, in a broader scale, we say anyone could benefit from our services. Small businesses, entrepreneurs, salespeople, corporations, nonprofits. More specifically, hotels, destinations, nonprofits I mentioned before, health and counseling offices, universities, and then landscape and architecture. Those are kind of more our niche industries.
Interesting. So it's a mix of like e-commerce pages and lead generation pages, it sounds like.
Yes, it is.
Very interesting.
Lots of lead generation campaigns and lots of social media. Last year it was about 50-50 social media and web development projects, but this year it's most heavily on social media, just kind of with everything going on. Everyone's online, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're gonna dive into sort of the nitty-gritty, obviously, of the type of work that you're doing in a second. I would be curious now, like, what's a way that companies will learn about One House Digital? What's maybe a typical path, maybe typical channels that they would walk through in order to, discover and get started with One House Digital?
Well, when I first started out, when I started the company, I started at the grassroots level. So it was word of mouth, networking events. Of course,
Mhm.
now it's e-networking events with Zoom and things like that. But moving into the digital space, using that content that I kind of, introduced the company with, in, person and in speaking engagements,
Mhm.
then that channeled to the website and then of course social media.
Mhm.
And also LinkedIn is a space we use a lot, and it's something that we highly encourage pretty much anyone, any professional, to market themselves on.
Makes a lot of sense. What role would you say does the website play? You mentioned it there in the overall setup. Does it take a key role? Is it more an informational hub? Like, how would you describe the website?
Um, I would, for now, it's more for our portfolio since we do web development design and graphic design work. And we
Hmm.
also use it as a sales material.
Hmm.
So obviously any prospective client would want references, portfolio, views of our work.
Hmm.
So it really aids in our sales and in closing sales. Um, I think right now it plays maybe a bit more of a supportive role,
Yep.
but once we do crank out ad campaigns for One House Digital, it'll definitely play a starring role in our lead generation.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Very good. Okay. So I would love to talk a little bit with you about the nitty-gritty of the projects that you're working with. Obviously, um, a couple of topics that are interesting in this podcast. Usually we talk about like lead qualification a little bit. To which degree would you be involved to that level? Do you support your clients, helping them to, figure out how to qualify the leads from the websites by tools, by, different types of form tools? Maybe is that something you're looking at, or sort of maybe where do you start and where do you stop? If you could explain that to the listeners.
For lead generation?
Yep.
Okay. Um, Start by identifying ideal clients, and then from there, picking a platform to market on that best suits their needs and that can target that ideal client. So, of course, for more consumer products and services, Facebook and Instagram, for example, or of course Google, as you probably are very familiar. For B2B, LinkedIn. And then from there diving into the building part, the landing page or the the lead form on the social media platform itself.
Hmm.
So those are the steps.
Makes a lot of sense. And for the clients that you're working with, you mentioned it ranges from hotels to also, lead generation and businesses that require leads to be generated. How do you support them in winning more leads from the website, or more business from the website? So, because obviously one thing is driving traffic, right? Which
Mm.
you guys are helping, as you mentioned before, through choosing the different platforms to drive traffic. What do you do on the websites? How do you support businesses there?
Well, it depends. For hotels, it would be sales bookings,
Hmm.
obviously. So making sure that's trackable on the back end,
Hmm.
or integrating call tracking. Call Rail. That's something I've used for years.
Yep.
I'm sure there's other great apps out there you can use as well. But we listen in on the calls. Of course, we get the permission from the client. But with that, I use my sales background to see where the lead goes.
Hmm.
So, is there something that that person answering the phone could say
Hmm.
that could make the lead, go through the funnel more efficiently? So tactics like that are what I use.
Very, very interesting. And do you support the businesses in terms of actually, defining all the funnels? Because what we've been seeing here at Pathmark is um, clients come with a different sophistication about their own funnel setup. Like, is that something where you do, a lot of education as well, and straightening up those funnels and helping them to optimize those?
Yes. A lot of clients or prospective clients say, I just want a funnel, and they don't know maybe exactly what that means.
Mhm.
So obviously identifying if they use a CRM, if
Mhm.
they use some sort of email marketing platform, whatever that is, starting there. That would be one of the first steps in seeing what software they use. And if not, then, signing them up for those types of software
Gotcha.
to deliver the results.
Very good. Do you have a war story to share how you were able, or maybe something that you learned, what has helped the businesses that you work with to win more leads from their websites? Because that's obviously a lot of companies are trying to figure out, running A/B tests or changing the headlights and headlines and images. Like maybe something that you've learned that maybe that you see again on websites that really is important that you need to do in order to be able to get more leads from the page.
Yes. So on that point, definitely running tests. Companies, big or small, will say, we've tried this and this, but it hasn't worked.
Mhm.
Or we've done this on our own, and it hasn't worked. So what I say to them is run tests, whether it be with from the ad side or with, the landing page, with the website. A/B test as much as possible because you never know.
Mhm.
And also taking calculated risks with vendors, with software, with lead generation platforms, trying new things, but within budget, especially with, unfortunately, with everything going on. Lots of companies are kind of have much stricter budgets. But, if you don't invest in the business, you're not going to get much out of it. So it's that balance.
Mhm.
So those would be my suggestions.
Okay. One last question, sort of on the nitty-gritty side of things. It's very, very interesting to learn about that a little bit more. Can you tell me, how do you optimize for that the campaigns or the traffic that you're bringing is, actually bringing leads and not traffic, right? Because obviously this is two different things. Is there something that you've learned on how to continuously optimize that?
Yes, kind of adding to the whole testing
Mhm.
strategy. It's definitely, excuse me, it's definitely looking into the analytics.
Yep.
That's the most important part of any campaign, whether it be brand awareness or lead generation.
Mhm.
Um, so, so I teach clients how to look at the insights, the analytics,
Yep.
and how to read them. Most importantly, because if you give a client a report, it can be really confusing to them. So, educating them, giving them that power to understand which that an ad that has a lower um, excuse me, a
You
lower
heard it.
cost per click or a
Yep.
lower cost per result,
Yep.
versus something that just gets more mass amount of clicks. Deciding which to pause, which to
Makes a lot of sense.
accelerate, that sort of thing.
That makes a lot of sense. That matches exactly in what we're seeing. That is, you can hand over a lot of data, right? But it's the meaningful bits and pieces to be extracting those. And that is really the key. Very interesting. Okay, I would love to switch gears a little bit and talk about you as a business owner and business leader a little bit, if that's okay. So I would love to know. How you educate yourself. Like, what are typical platforms that you like to go to, typical places that you found high quality information that really helped you to sort of, grow your knowledge in the field?
Three things. Books. Um, I've been reading How to Be Heard and LinkedIn Unlocked, which, as you can probably imagine, is super beneficial in my industry. Just reading as much as possible. So maybe skipping a night of Netflix and then reading instead,
Mhm.
because knowledge is power, obviously. So, both for, someone who is in this space, is a digital marketer, and someone who is brand new to it,
Mhm.
reading is super important. Also, the power of Google, reading on the tech news, everything kind of trending and the new stuff coming on. Um, that's something that I do as well on a regular basis.
Very good.
Um, yeah, those are how I kind of make sure that I keep current and keep refreshed.
Very good. And what would be a topic that you would have recently researched? Maybe one topic where you really focused on and said, okay, I really want to dive deeper here.
Couple of things. One is kind of my mission, really. Part of my mission is to help the international tourism and hospitality industry. That industry has been hit really, really hard by COVID-19. So I'm constantly researching on the individual, hotel chains themselves, or destinations, whether it be the Netherlands, the US, Barbados. So I'm constantly um, engaged in webinars or one-on-ones with people over the globe.
Hmm.
But also, what I do is I publish LinkedIn polls. So I recently did one for the hotel industry on how they're doing with sales. So just getting that intelligence from my network. That's how I can also conduct research.
Very interesting. That's very good. So you're actually creating your own data there rather than just consuming the data. So that's very good.
Yeah, my
Cool.
own intel.
Nice. So what I would like to do now is focus on what we have is the last section of the interview is the rapid fire questions. It's basically, a handful of questions that I go through. Usually it's like, one word answers, one sentence answers. And just for the listeners, usually our guests are not prepared for those. So are you ready for those?
I think so.
Awesome. Cool. So for your company, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say the word marketing operations?
uh, Being agile.
Very good. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say the word sales operations?
Learning and improving.
Nice. What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
The hotel tourism industry.
Hmm.
Hospitality strong.
Nice. Very good. I'm really seeing the passion there for the topic. If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be one thing that you want to have fixed for your clients today?
um, knowledge. I think that there are sometimes clients are in the dark.
Hmm.
So having them educated again on analytics, on what to do,
Hmm.
basically, I think that
Hmm.
that should be changed.
That brings me actually to a small follow-up, like the concept of conversion and conversion rate optimization. Is that something that you rather will tell them about, or is it something they ask you for?
It depends. If they've been in the marketing business, obviously, for a while, then they know what that is. They know exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they, pardon my language, they can tell the BS.
Hmm.
We don't care about visitors. We
Hmm.
want money.
Yep.
But then
Yep.
there are those that don't know, and it's not their fault. They're focused on their day to day. So that's when the education part comes in with knowing what a conversion rate is and
Very interesting.
etc.
Very interesting. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Um, well, on the note of reading and you know acquiring that knowledge as a business owner, probably doing that before becoming a business owner was what I should have done. So I guess that kind of but they say start before you're ready, so it's kind of
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Being in the books there probably wouldn't have helped you that much, but doing it. Very,
Probably.
very good. What's one advice that you would give yourself if today would be the first day of you starting One House Digital?
um Take your time.
Hmm.
I had a mentor who was awesome. Have a mentor who pretty much said that as well. If you don't start now, you're probably never going to start the business. But I wish I would have, learned more about the business finance aspect, just all those back end housekeeping kind of things before plunging into it. So that would be my answer to that.
Very nice. Maybe a small follow-up on that, since you mentioned your mentor there. For anybody who's listening out there trying to find a really good mentor or building that relationship, any advice that you can give them to, find that mentor and build that bond?
Yeah, twofold. So since most of us are inside, we're quarantined, LinkedIn is a fantastic resource. Just introducing yourself, telling more about what you do to people who are mentors, and making sure you're following a lot of them on your network. That's powerful. And then when things get better, in-person networking. So going to networking groups. That's how I found my mentor.
Very nice. Very cool. Great. So, Jan, I really appreciate that you took the time and showed us a little bit about the world of One House Digital, and showed us how you're helping, number one, the hospitality industry, but also other lead generation focused businesses around the globe. So, appreciate you took the time and thanks for being part of this episode.
Thank you so much, Lucas. Wish you the best.